So I'd like to invite our first speaker, and this, as we said, is on the topic of designing effective learning experiences at scale. So first of all, Professor Uma Kanjilal is Vice-Chancellor Indira Gandhi National Open University, India, and it's a great pleasure to welcome you here, Professor Uma. Sorry, my teeth are not practiced yet. They haven't had enough coffee. My apologies for stumbling on my words, but a very warm welcome. And would you like your slides to be shared straight away, Professor Uma?
Oh, may I share my slides?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. Dr. Linda, I have a very bad throat. As I told you, I was not well. So you have to tolerate that. So good morning to my colleagues from UK and my colleagues from India. So it's a pleasure to be part of this India UK forum. So what I will be talking about, is my slide.
They look perfect, and thank you very much for joining us with a sore throat. I really appreciate you taking the time when you're unwell.
Yeah. So I'll be talking about designing effective learning experiences at a scale from the IGNU perspective. As you know, as also Linda mentioned, IGNU is the largest university in the world with 3.5 million students on the rolls. So that is something that, marks a difference from other universities. So we were set up by, established under the Act of Parliament in 1985. And if you see, talking about scale, the way we operate, that gives you an idea. We are running 333 programs. We have our, 69 regional centers. We have overseas centers also 25. So it's not operational only in India, it's across the world. We have our centers with 2063 learner support centers. We run our own FM radio station. We have our own TV channels. And we are also participating as national coordinator for SWAM and SWAM Prava of Government of India. So it is the large scale that we establish, and the issues and challenges that I'll talk about comes from that as such. And we have offered actually for the past 4-5 years, we have started offering online programs also. That's another challenge when we talk about in India, because a lot of issues come. Talking about the mandate of the university, it's actually flexibility, accessibility, equity, quality, and affordability. On those principles, we run our programs. So, and if you look into the enrollment, it gives you a clear-cut idea. At the moment, we have 3.5 million students on the rolls. It's a huge number that we have to handle. And every year, there is an addition about 1.3 million students joining in every year. So this gives you an idea, the large scale that we operate. If you look into the demographic profile, in fact, 55% of the learners are coming from rural and tribal areas, which means we try to reach out to the last mile that is there. And gender also, if you see, 54% female students are there. And category-wise also, backward classes, we are catering in a big way. This is the national footprint of the university, and if you can see, it's a national university, it's a central university. And this gives you an idea exactly how we are spread out across the country with our regional centers and learning support centers. We have, apart from, if you look into 12 recognized regional centers for defense and network of 85 learner support centers and 340 special learner support centers for disadvantaged groups. We have also programs running for the jail inmates, and for that also another 180 IGNU special learner support centers available in the jail also. We have penetration into remote and tribal areas, 9 regional centers and 205 learner support centers across in the northeast. So this gives you an idea about how we are spread out into the difficult terrains, and our motto is reaching the doorsteps of the learners, and that's how we try to provide the services. This is our international engagement that we have. I'm not going into the details because the time is limited. So if you look into already 15 countries, we have coverage. Uh, where we have 25 partner institutions, and as on date more than 95,000 international students cumulative enrollment, if you see, has happened. Apart from that, we are partnering with the Ministry of External Affairs, offering a special program E-Vidya Bharati for the 21 countries in Africa, and also signed an MOU with Guyana Online Academy of Learning. So there also we are providing special programs for them. We have been adopting multimedia approach over the years from the very beginning, actually. But we have been actually, as the time passes, as new technologies come in, we try to change and adopt and adapt to the newer technologies that are coming in. So, if you look into that, we have online programs, around 47 programs running, which is, when I say online education, it's completely online, right from registration to certification. We are even conducting remote proctor examinations for our students. All our self-learning material, they are digitized and available on our special portal eGyan Push. Again, this is the largest portal, and this is open access portal. So all our course material have been digitized and made available on eGyan Push, and very popular. In fact, world over, people are utilizing our content. Apart from that, we have a mobile app. All the 333 ODL programs have been also made available. We have somewhere uh, around 2.5 million downloads on this. Uh, we provide online counseling sessions for all our programs. So initially, it used to be learner support center based counseling sessions that we were conducting. But now we have moved on. I mean, we are blending it. There are counseling sessions happening in the region, in the learner support centers. Apart from that, from our regional centers, we offer online counseling sessions on different platforms. It could be a Facebook platform, it could be through Zoom, Microsoft Teams, or whatever it is. And these are actually conducted by the regional centers. We provide audiovisual aids, which are all available on YouTube channel, a special channel for IGNU. Apart from that, as I mentioned, we have our TV channels. There we have two-way interaction through teleconferencing and all happening. Apart from that, Swayam Prabha channel, that is 6 Swayam Prabha channels of Government of India. That's also what we are utilizing. And we have, I mean, this our exclusive Gandharshan TV channel, which is also available in the webcasting mode. 3 FM radio stations are there, where we have interactive web radio counseling happening, especially known as Gandhara. Uh, Apart from that, we conduct web conferences, Zoom and all. We provide for OERs and MOOCs courses available on our SWAM portal, again, Government of India portal, and also the provision of practical projects, fieldwork, internship that are required. So basically, if you see latest technologies that are available, we try to adapt to that. But if you talk about handling this large number of learners and being effective, providing them the effective learning experience at a scale is a major challenge. In fact, if you see that we have to handle heterogeneous learner community. I shared with you also, people from all walks of life, they are there, and they have diverse needs. So we have to design our program as per their requirement. Another thing is that reaching the last mile. I mean, people say that using digital media or technology could be a great help, but we need to see also that there is digital divide, and if you go to the remotest corners, people may not have access to this digital technology that we are talking about. Another issue, especially in India, we have language barrier. So just providing courses in English is not good enough. We have 22 scheduled languages and we have to reach out that. So off late, what we have started in a major project that we are translating this all our course material into 22 languages. Recently, we signed MOU with Odisha, government of Odisha, where all the 333 programs we are going to, I mean, translate them into Odia. And this is a major project. This is the first step, but in a big way, we are planning to convert them all material into Odia. And when I say that, I mean, just providing the content in regional language will not be good enough. What we need to do is complete package. Whether we talk about the SLM, whether we talk about the counseling sessions, we talk about the radio and TV based programs, audiovisual aids that are there, everything has to be translated into different languages. Even the examination assignments, we should provide the learner with that. So this is a challenge that we are trying to handle, and it's a, I mean, though technology can help, we have AI based tools which can translate the material, but at the moment it's not perfect. In fact, a lot of vetting is required, so a lot of effort is also required in that. Another important thing is adapting content and delivery methods to accommodate diverse learning styles and abilities of the learners. It's another challenge. In fact, they come from the different backgrounds. So we need to understand this. As I showed you, around 54% students are coming from the rural area. So hand holding them, personalizing, customizing the material as per their requirement is also a big challenge. So what we do, possibly what we talk about is pedagogy using technology. I mean, how you can blend the best practices that looks good. But it's again a challenge, in fact, how we best adopt and adapt to the technology that needs to be looked into and how we can scale up. So what we need to do is effective pedagogy can be actually utilized. Instructional design principles to create engaging content, again, important thing. I think we have again a lot of AI tools coming in. In fact, India, where we are now developing, there is a stress that just video based on talking head is not good enough. You have to add animations, you have to add visual effects, gaming, comic, all those things to engage your learners. That's another area which we are trying to do. And then also, I mean, implementing appropriate technology to create access to learner resources, collaboration, personalized feedback. We need to see how best we can utilize what are the platforms that are to be there. Again, there's a challenge, and we are looking for appropriate tools that can be used. So, what we need to see is that the technology that we adopt, it supports learning objectives and enhances the overall learning experience and not hinders it. And best, I think, what of it we are talking about, how best we can use AI to customize and personalize the learning paths. So how do we design, I mean, experiential learning and learning experience design focused on creating engaging, effective learning journeys that enable learners to achieve desired outcomes. This is one thing that we need to look into. Applying instructional design principles and user experience to create interactive and immersive learning activities. Designing learning centric learning experience, incorporating feedback and iterative improvements based on learner performances. So these are the things that we need to look into. Also, how we ensure that learner are, I mean, experiences are accessible and inclusive. So I already mentioned about digital divide. So we need to see how best we can reach out and cater to the diverse learning styles, preferences, and background. I think AI can help in a big way transforming curriculum design. It offers powerful toolkit for creating more engaging and scalable learning experience. How best we use that, we need to design our curriculum. I mean, using AI, we need to see how we can do with that. It can be used to develop customized learning paths tailored because as you, I mean, through AI, you can identify the learning path of individual learners So, but in that case, you have to bring in all your learners to some kind of a digital platform. Again, that's going to be a challenge, and how we do that, that needs to be looked into. Uh, Another important thing is we talk about a lot of AI, generative AI tools that are available. It can curate content, create very attractive content. But how best we do that, and especially in case of India, where I talked about the language barrier, how best we utilize that, that needs to be looked into. Uh, AI also enables in creation of adaptive assessment. That's another area that needs to be worked on. So basically, AI-driven customization, personalization is something that we need to use to the best of the possibilities that are there, which can bring in personalized learning paths and adaptive assessment, uh, deliver targeted content addressed to knowledge gaps. So, in fact, AI can help in identifying the knowledge gaps, skill deficits, performance issues, and accordingly design the content for individual learners. Employing adaptive technologies can adjust content pacing difficulty based on learner performance and learner to control, explore options based on prior knowledge and interest. Thank you very much. I think, but what we need to see is there are a lot of possibilities, but how best we can utilize that, that needs to be looked into. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You've touched on so many important issues there, really giving us the sense of the context of your learners and then the approaches that you're using. And I'm very conscious that your throat is hurting as well. So I'm most grateful for that. I'll invite Margaret Korosec from University of Leeds now to talk about her experiences in terms of scalable learning design. And then we'll open up an opportunity for conversation around this. Thank you.
Hi there. Can you see my slides?
We can, thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Well, that's a hard one to beat, I think. And I really am inspired by the presentation we've just had. One, just the scale and the underlying mission of the institution is absolutely clear. So I just it was very inspiring to have that and to a hard one to follow. So I just wanted to start off with very similar themes, actually. And so there will be much that resonates between our two presentations, which is wonderful. And I do want to say, though, that I am looking at this from the perspective of more of a campus-based institution. And so institutions are different and serve different purposes. So from the perspective that I'm sharing today, it is from University of Leeds, serves 40,000 campus students. We do have over 130 open courses. There's been a strong and long commitment to open education as well as digital education. And so there is a strong investment as well as commitment to that. But when we talk about scale, it's not at the scale that we've just experienced. So it's really from that different perspective. So just to cover what I'd like to go over today really are the principles in as far as what are we looking at when we're looking at scale without losing quality. And so there are three principles there I'd like to outline. I'd like to go into some of the practices, some examples of what that looks like, as well as kind of almost the institutional models that help and support that, and then some possibilities beyond. So what does it mean for you in your institution? How do you translate what is possible as well? But I first want to touch on scale. Clearly, scale means different things to different institutions. And that is a really important differentiator. I think in general, the ability to effectively reach and serve a large and diverse audience without compromising quality does seem to resonate and come through. But 3.5 million learners is a lot different than maybe the campus students we serve, or we've probably reached in the hundreds of thousands in our online and open courses. But again, that is a different, goal potentially, as well as different institutional structure. So the risks, though, with scale are that students become disengaged. Do we know our students? Is there involvement with them? And what do the staff need to support a shift to academic practice and using the systems and technology that will allow and support that experience? And of course, institutional readiness, I feel, is also an investment, is a key component of that. What is the expectation on the academic? What is the expectation on professional services? And are there professional services to support? So just going through the three in general, keeping students at the center, the three kind of areas specifically, and lovely how they dovetail with the previous presentation. So it's very much aligned about that: designing for engagement, building equity and flexibility, and leveraging data and feedback. So if we just start with that first one, designing for engagement, how do we meet the needs of our target audience? And when I say target audience and target students, those differ. And, we have knowing who our audience is a part of how do we design for that and how do we engage with those students. But in general, I completely agree with what was previously said about, the lecture is not an only form. A video, etc., is not an only form. What is the activity that the student is doing? What is the experience? What are they experiencing to let that concept land, to absorb that, and then to apply? So that experiential learning is massive as far as how we can engage with the audiences, what kind of interactivity is there, and how do we introduce assessments that are meaningful. What also is can be in smaller component parts as well. We know that learners are on the run, they're working, they're balancing everything. So what is achievable within periods of time that they might have available at a given point? So designing for engagement, designing for that is a big part of keeping the students at the center. If we go on to the next, building for equity and flexibility, without compromising the quality experience, is how do we respond to the students? How do we meet their needs? How do we allow that? So blending asynchronous opportunities and synchronous learning. I think at Leeds, we actually have quite a bit of academic contact time. And so I have been in other institutions where it is self-paced, where it is, where there may not be as much interaction. And so again, that's a factor when we look at how can we build in that equity and flexibility? And what are we promising the students? Are we saying you will have engagement with the academic community, or this part is fully independent learning? And so that, setting the expectations is really important so that when people and prospective students look at your offer, they know what to expect. They know that, oh, I can do this in a flexible way. I can do this remotely, fully online or otherwise, and being very clear with that as well. Leeds also, in particular, has an absolute commitment to digital accessibility, and that is well beyond the governmental, let's say, regulatory context as far as choice, as far as the ability to choose how you can consume or access your information, your learning materials, your learning resources. And so that has been an absolute priority in the design of providing an equitable and inclusive learning experience. We also, as we grow our fully online degree portfolio, we are looking at, 55% of those students are international students, 45% are home students. So as we grow and diversify that audience, we also look at what does that local context mean? Yes, we are a UK university and there's a certain lens that will be within that context, but how can we bring in the student voice to grow that peer-to-peer learning, to to understand what's happening in other contexts and other students' cultural and professional lives that make add value to the learning experience. And that final one there is just leveraging the data and the feedback. How do we keep our content, our courses, our information relevant? And you know, I think the academic cycle can be quite onerous and time-consuming when we look at quality process and program approval process. So what can be done at program level to do the program level design that really looks at what is solid and what can be introduced as and when during the teaching cycles to ensure that that material is relevant, that it integrates what's happening in the world. When I also talk about data and feedback, I make no assumptions that all institutions have the same or have access to data that is meaningful in the sense of, you know, student engagement. Not everything is possible to do a nudge. You know, when you know that students are not engaging, there can be automated systems to nudge them, to send a text, to send a message, to send an email. That type of engagement where you are balancing technology with the design of the program and integrating it into your systems is really important. And I see that increasingly important, specifically at scale. When you talk about previously in the supporting students and counseling and things like this is so important. But what are the stages? What are the phases? What can be introduced with technology to help and support that experience? So that they also feel seen, that students feel seen. The final part there is just that step on and step off. We know that, that flexibility and ability to reintroduce or to step on and start something, to finish something, but then step off for a while and recontinue. Those also require institutional models that allow for that to happen, so you don't lose the student in your systems. So just wanted to share two case studies specifically. And again, when we're talking about scale, this is at a different scale than previously mentioned. But Western Governors University in the United States, it is a nonprofit university. It was never a campus. It was fully designed as a fully online degree, accredited degree offer. In the early days when they launched, everything was essentially a PDF file, and that was the course, and they would send it out, and it got to students. It was maybe emailed, and there wasn't much else around that. And that was the early days, and that actually is probably 15 years ago, probably 20 years ago, actually. But one of the projects that I led then in 2009 was redesigning these PDFs into interactive courses, and really looking at taking a very specific learning design model, looking at what the virtual learning environment is capable of, embedding that activity-led design, the student engagement, and building in points that are meaningful for the analytic component. That was in the early days. There was 12,000 students at the time. Shortly thereafter, after those courses went live, it was 36,000. They are now at 150,000. Again, completely different, but the engagement here and the model of a self-paced, competency-based education was novel in the US in that context at the time. But this example underpins the principles before of ensuring that engagement, using data, and having that flexibility. And again, going from analog to a digital rich environment allowed for the scale as well. That allowed for that to reach a larger audience. At the University of Leeds, we've introduced program level design for our fully online postgraduate degrees. And at the center is absolutely the student experience. However, it's also the academic experience and the professional services support needed to enable that to happen. So by design, looking at the entire program, building that in component parts, so automatically including open courses as part of that ecosystem of a program, and ensuring those flexible learning options are there, ensuring that you could step on and step off as needed, rejoin, and still are part of the community. So ensuring that sense of community, that sense of belonging is really crucial. And I think that's one of the challenges as well when you're reaching a certain scale. You know, where are those staff-student ratios in a way? Where are those? What kind of support network needs to be in place? And crucially, where can the technology help with that first triage point, for example, whether it's on the academic side or other pastoral components? So what's next? Many of these are, you know, align very much with what's been said. So that AI-driven personalization, looking at accelerated routes. You know, we talk so much about part-time, but actually, I think there is a space for accelerated routes. What does that look like, and how do we support that at scale? Lifelong learning ecosystems, right? It's not just about the degree anymore. It's the step-off awards, it's component parts, it's certificates, and basically that co-design. Who can we co-design with? We can co-design with students. We can co-design with our learning design teams. We can co-design with AI. We, you know, as a principle, co-design is embedded within, again, a University of Leeds context, and I think those partners are expanding, and I think AI is definitely in that mix. Just to kind of close out now, one of the things I wanted to share too is we've talked about maybe the course design or the student experience, but part of it too is that broader ecosystem of the types of courses that we offer and making these visible to the external world. So open courses and having that as a priority and a commitment is really important. But we're of course also seeing, you know, what does it mean to have a smaller component? Will we recognize it? Recognition of prior learning. If you're coming into university, what are you bringing with? What can we acknowledge so that you can have a shorter duration, so that you can pay less maybe? You know, so there's a different model there. And so this straddles non-credit bearing courses, credit bearing courses. What's not pictured here is the ecosystem underpinning this, right? What systems enable this to happen? Our application portals, our virtual learning environments, that network of services, professional services, and student services that allow this. So this is really just planting a seed for consideration in your own context. What does that look like for you? And I'd love to kind of explore that in the conversations afterwards. So as a final comment, really just start small, think big. You know, what can you pilot now? I mean, the maturity level of different institutions varies completely. So I make no assumptions that this is either innovative or not. You know, everyone has is where they are as an institution. And so take some ideas, try them out, gather that feedback, and learn from that, keeping the learner at the center. And so I leave you with that. You know, what would enable your institution to support scale in digital education? Thank you so much. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you. Thanks, Margaret. That's absolutely brilliant. Some really very complimentary talks there. Really, really interesting, really building up our thoughts around personalization, the priority of student-centered, and I noted that in both talks, which is really exciting. Now we've got questions coming in. Prof. Uma has been responding to some of the India-specific questions that have been coming in the chat, so thank you very much. So let me start with some of the questions, if I may. Audience, please feel free to add questions to the chat or to the Q&A button. I'll try and manage to look at both. If I miss things, apologies, you can always nudge me again. So we had some questions which I think would actually be relevant for both of you, which is the question of kind of navigating platforms and system permissions within your institutions. And it's noted that a kind of challenge in the UK can be procurement and system permissions, and which can be a challenge to reducing openness. So I don't know, Prof. Uma, would you like to sort of talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you may have had in terms of the whole technology behind and having kind of access to systems? And then Margaret, maybe you might pick up on that, please. Prof. Uma, if you wanted to come in on technology and platforms and access and procurement and those kind of background processes. You're on mute at the moment. I don't know if that's if you're having.
Just a second. I think first one is, how did you navigate the platform or systems permission?
Yes.
Within your institution to provide much more open access to platform tools picked up on this when you were discussing online counseling. So platform was actually, it depends, hit and trial method, which suited us. So I think major jump came during the COVID, and everyone started, in fact, when it was lockdown, it was very difficult to reach out to our learners. So we were trying all sorts of platforms, and gradually we have taken, even we used Facebook in a big way. So, I mean, most of the faculty would be giving online classes through the platform like Facebook. So this was something, a big hit, so which was not at all institutionalized. And then we further institutionalized it, used our IGNOU's official Facebook channel to have systematic counseling sessions happening in that. And even our regional centers also conducted counseling sessions using different platforms. So finally, we have picked up our email system runs on Gmail. So we have access to the Google Suite for that. And the people have been using, I mean, uh, uh, Google Meet actually for that. Apart from that, Zoom also we have decided to go in big way. So basically, procurement could be challenge, but it's also a requirement. So we have to see which suits us. We need to optimize the usage, and accordingly, we have gone in a big way. And as I say, that regional centers have been using all our counseling sessions. When online, it is being used by the regional centers. So they have Google Meet access, because already we have signed MOU with them and have gone in for their access, and in a big way we may go further with other tools that are there. So these are the tools now. Google Meet and your Zoom are the ones that are being extensively used for the counseling sessions.
Thank you very much. I noted your point about COVID and the impact, and I think that's perhaps representative of what's happened around the world, really, in terms of the way in which people have engaged. Dr. Margaret, did you want to pick up on some of those issues?
Sure. I think just to complement really that the University of Leeds has long had a strong investment in digital education. And so many of those systems and the peripheral student support that we offer for campus students have been also during COVID, but that was a ready shift really, because those systems were actually already in place. And the pedagogy in a way behind using those systems was also readily available with the support of specialist staff. And so the systems, we are a Microsoft Teams system. We do, we have all of the virtual learning environment that supports that. But what we do see, and tying to kind of that ecosystem slide I showed, is sometimes those component parts require different systems. And so a student experience can be compromised when you take an open course, for example, and it might be on a different platform. And then you need to go through a cycle of re-registering, et cetera, if you're coming onto a different type of program as well. And so there's a lot of work actually still to do to map out a really seamless or frictionless student experience there. So I don't underestimate what actually work is still to be done. However, as most of us are doing, the best that we can with the existing systems. But I think part of that question too was about procurement and, what do you choose? I think a clear and clean vetting process is really important. Having true partners in your procurement teams and IT teams and learning technology teams, if that's available, are really crucial in getting that mix right. And most importantly, I think capturing the roadmap of your own digital infrastructure and knowing what is there is really important. Knowing the maturity of those, knowing the life cycle of those, when do they need to be updated, and staying on top of that with an overlay of, the pace of change in some of those platforms and the need to either update with what the supplier is already updating you with, internally in their system, or what do you need to add as a complementary tool. So yeah, a bit of awareness and mapping there.
Thank you. You both touched on such important points in that response. Can I pick up with you on Margaret, which is about can you tell us a little bit more about how you co-create and co-design online learning experiences with students at Leeds?
Absolutely. So as I mentioned, kind of that program level design process is really core to engaging with the academic community, which kind of touches on one of the other points in there, I think. Bringing in the academic community and bringing in students. Now, if we're launching a new degree, we're not going to have students on that program yet, right? So we need to be looking at a broader student, a representative student audience, whether they're online students currently, for example. We're drawing potentially on our graduates of online degree programs. So we do integrate that into the design process, bringing their voice in. The one example, and I know there's a colleague here who worked on this program as well, is we did launch a Master of Science Disability Studies, Rights and Inclusion. And that degree in its own right really required user experience testing as well, touching on the digital accessibility there. And again, the program wasn't live, so we needed to draw and extend the reach of who we were inviting to co-create that. But it was partial co-creation, but partial. We wanted that feedback. What was the user experience? If we design this, give that to someone with certain requirements, the feedback was phenomenal. So a lived experience of accessibility, of screen readers, of audio, of all of that. And that user journey has actually completely been embedded into our digital accessibility for all degrees.
Thank you. Thanks, Margaret. There's a question about, and I noted in both presentations, there was a focus on both degrees and shorter courses and other types of learning experience. And Margaret, you provided us with a kind of a very helpful diagram, I think, to think about how full degrees and lifelong learning, short courses, accredited and uncredited type of provision linked together. And I know within India, there's, Professor Uma, you've got a huge range of types of learning experience, short courses and so on. So perhaps I could ask you both to think about the question we presented, which is, how do you integrate lifelong learning into the ecosystem of a university, and the challenges that might lay there, and the opportunities that presents as well? So Professor Uma, might I ask you how you integrate lifelong learning into your degree offer, your 333 degrees, and the way in which you meet the needs of learners and support learners to move between lifelong learning and full degree study?
Yeah, actually, if you look in my presentation, also I mentioned, so we happen to be the national coordinator for SWAYAM, which is an India Moves platform. There we are creating a lot of courses which are, which individually people can take up and can earn credits as well. But it's mainly, I've seen that what our experience is that people are taking them up for lifelong learning. And this updated content that comes in helps them in a big way, in fact. Apart from that, we have noticed will you imagine, we have one student who was 83 years old. It was not for employability for anything else. It was for self-learning. And we have quite a lot of such experience. So age is no limit in our case. So it's a lifelong learning. In fact, everything that we provide is for lifelong learning. Apart from that, we have specialized programs also, which are just non-credited courses. Anyone can go in for that. We also have a provision where the students can pick up individual courses from a complete program just to upgrade themselves. That's the provision that we have.
Brilliant, thank you. Yeah, it's always so exciting, isn't it, to see 83-year-old learners on our programs. We have the same at the University of London. We have, colleagues, students of all ages engaging with our programs, and for lots of different motivations. And I think that's a really important point, isn't it? Sometimes people are studying for pleasure and for interest and for passion in a particular subject, or they're studying to improve their career opportunities or their life opportunities. So it's fascinating. Margaret, did you want to kind of respond back to that sort of ecosystem, the balancing, or the way in which these meld and are built together?
Yes, I mean, it's interesting because I think, again, from the perspective of a campus-based institution, some of this is a bit of catching up, right? Catching up to allow that, and where the systems in general will focus on the campus student experience, including things like student information systems that are geared to or expecting that student to be on campus. There has been a steep learning curve at Leeds to look at what is needed to serve different audiences, and so it's step by step. I think we're several just brief examples. We have started recognizing an industry certification that can then be transferred essentially in lieu of credit for one of our online degrees. That's one example. Again, I said that previously that we have open courses that lead into this. We are looking at disaggregating our credit-bearing modules from our degree programs to be standalone. We have always had the design for our online degrees where you can step off with a certificate or a diploma or the full master's. That has always been the case. And so it's in some ways gradual, but it's also, there's very clear threshold points where we're like, yes, we now can do something different and serve students better in a way, when we make certain choices. So thank you.
Thanks. Can I ask you both to build on that, because I think there's an interesting question in the chat which kind of builds on that, which is how do you manage the tension between the flexibility, and you've just mentioned, step off points and step on and so on, and keeping learners on track, supporting them to engage. We know that study pauses can lead to people kind of not getting back onto the system and so on. So how do you balance it, both at Leeds and in India? How do you balance these questions of ensuring that flexibility, but also a supported safety net for students that helps them to get back on? Margaret, would you like to respond to that first?
Sure. I mean, I think I think taking models for campus student success, this will be called different things in different institutions, student success teams or student support teams. I think taking that into an online space is crucial. It's absolutely crucial that is a robust and very refined process. Because it's true, you need to be keeping, contact with your students and knowing where they are and knowing that they are visible as well to you, that they've not been forgotten is so crucial to that sense of belonging, but also the accountability, the accountability that, oh, I know I need to register right now for the next module, or I'll miss the window, or I'll miss this whole term. And, what's next? But knowing that someone's going to reach out. At Western Governors University, just briefly, they had a really great system about student success mentors. And so you had your module mentor, which was your academic lead, but you also had a student mentor who was actually a single point of contact throughout your entire journey. So you kind of really built that relationship. Now, again, that's at scale, to be honest, but, I think there are a lot of models worth exploring.
Thank you. And I guess in terms of mentor, we also have counsellors, so I think they're probably the same kind of person. Who's involved. Brilliant. Thank you, Professor Uma. So at IGNOU, how are you managing this question of flexibility versus helping students to stay involved and engaged?
Well, in our case, since it's a completely flexible system, student can, like a degree program of 3 years, they have double the years to complete. So generally, but the thing that is that they miss out is the counseling sessions, practical programs that are there. So that is why I think it's important for the learners to be actually completing their things in time. That is one important thing. We try our best, try to get in touch, and as the counseling sessions go on, they may miss out in the next year if they don't go in for. So this is something, I mean, we try to keep them engaged, but still, in principle, we are flexible. We don't force learners. It's actually, they have to be self-motivated. That is the most important thing. That is where actually it matters. And we have seen that those who are self-motivated do very well, because they are, they are, in fact, like we have a lot of students who get job immediately after completing their program, and at a very this is what that matters. So these are the things. And one important thing is that we say that the gold medalist will be one who completes within the time frame. So that's another motivation that is there.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's interesting. So kind of incentivizing going through the program at a particular pace is really important. And I guess some of the things you talked about in terms of personalization, AI, pathways will all help to add that opportunity for students to come through. I think that's really helpful. Now, we've got some more questions coming in on the chat, and we've got about 10 more minutes in this discussion, which I'm finding fascinating. I want to cycle back to something, if I may, that has been raised in the questions, and it's about, I'm curious for your tips for gaining feedback from students on content to help feeding into program design. And Catherine has said, we really struggle to get feedback from our DL students in module evaluations and through student reps. And I know at the University of London, we've got a lot of systems in place to get feedback from students, but absolutely at the moment, there's a bit of a evaluation fatigue around in the world. And so, you know, surveys are less regularly engaged with. So Margaret first, and then Professor Uma, you know, thoughts on how do you get student voice? How do students feed into quality assurance, into program design, into program redesign and enhancement?
Thank you. Yeah, I would say we're still on a journey with that, but the intention is very clear. And I think, you know, it's one thing to kind of put out a message on the virtual learning environment, giving an opportunity for volunteers to come in and do something and maybe have a voucher for their time and things like this. I think the approach that we're taking really is building more of a community around that. And so that there's already a community, there's already a momentum, there's updates on where we are as an institution, there's updates on what we are doing to improve their experience. So it's a bit more of a communication channel that's open already, where they're not kind of out of the blue having yet another email to invite them to participate in something. And so I think that building that community, again, being seen and know that actually their voice matters. It's, you know, I think that's the first part to start building that community, to then, you know, engage with students, bring them into events and things like this is really part of that process.
Thanks, Margaret. Yes, I think that's so important, isn't it? That sense of their voice matters, and they are part of the community. They are an integral part of the community, and making that happen for our distance learning students, it is a challenge, and certainly, you know, with students around the world in the way that we have, it is a challenge, but it's also so rewarding for both students and us when we achieve that. Professor Uma, how's that happening for you at IGNOU?
So what we try to do is reach out through different channels I mentioned. And they are two-way communication channels. Like we have radio counseling, which is quite popular. In fact, Gandhara, it's a web-based one. So where actually students, when they are having the live sessions, they can interact, and we try to engage them through that. So they can ask questions and directly those can be answered. Similarly, we have teleconferencing sessions using our TV channel, where again we try to reach out. So building community at a large scale is a very difficult position, but we have tried to do engaging the learners through group-based activities. For one specific program, we had a seminar set up where actually presentation is in groups. So those kind of experimentation we have done, and it worked also. People get to know, I mean, to work in a community. But then again, it's a challenge when you're talking about the large scale, because it's okay when you have a smaller group, you can work. So, and engaging learners at this large scale is very, very difficult. But we try our best, and we keep them engaged. We communicate them with lot of different channels. We have SMS service, keep them abreast with the development, and try best to get in touch with them. And in fact, the last point of contact is the learner support centers. So they get, those learner support centers have tried to handhold and help them with a big thing. Right?
Thanks. So that's really helpful, isn't it? So it's a range of different interactions, specifically enhancing that student experience with the counsellors, with the learning centres, and so on. I think that variety of contact and the variety of media as well that you're using, I think is really, really powerful. But absolutely the challenge of building community with millions of students, I think it is a really big one. So we and Sarah's actually kind of picked up on that in a way in her question in the chat. So how would you deal with MSc dissertation that needs engagement between the student and the academic? So I think it's really thinking about those personal individual projects and dissertation type modules that you may have at undergraduate, but you'll very likely have in a lot of your master's programs, postgraduate programs, where you're getting students to individually undertake research and so on, and that needs that kind of personalized guidance with an academic and a counsellor. So how do we scale that up? I'm going to go to you first, Professor Uma, if I may. So have you, in some of your postgraduate programs, how have you managed with things like individual student projects and dissertations?
As I mentioned, in fact, most of our activities are happening in the learner support centers. In case of projects, project proposal is submitted in the headquarters, that is the IGNU campus, where the faculty are sitting. In we have 21 schools of studies, and most of the programs also have project component. So with the first stage, it is actually the project proposal that is put in, the faculty directly actually evaluates, and then if feedback is needed, is provided to them. And based on that, once approval is given, the next stage is working on a proposal. So when a student is submitting a project proposal, has to submit a supervisor also detail of the CV with the CV. So we identify supervisors, we approve the supervisors, and then they can start work. So the supervisor is the point, and these supervisor could be a counselor in the learning support center who can be guiding the learner, or those who fit in the requirement of a supervisor with the qualification that we have mentioned, they can take up. So that is the human touch that is coming in, and they supervise. And the evaluation is again, after submission of the complete project, it could be evaluated by the internal faculty at the headquarters, or it could be through the list of counselors that are there. So this is how we bring in, and especially I think there is a mention the type of dissertation for online compared with on-campus students. Here I will mention that in case of IGNU, we don't have on-campus, but we differentiate between ODL and online program. In case of online program, we have a complete LMS which supports project submission to evaluation. So complete facility is available. So all the activities are happening online. In many cases, in fact, where students have to do their projects say in case of health science courses, they have to go work in a hospital or somewhere like that. So they have actually the endorsement from the hospital that they have worked on it. So these kind of provisions we have made.
So a very, very well-established system then to facilitate work-based placements and projects that are coming there with supervisory input from the placement, the work placement, so that the medical setting or health setting, as well as the faculty and other colleagues identified as supervisors. So in a way, it's modelling the practice that we would have in a campus-based institution, where you might have a work placement. Really interesting. Margaret, did you want to add anything to this conversation? I'm conscious that we've got basically 1 minute left, I'm afraid. What a good conversation, though.
So good. And that is built into the academic model, that there is the tutor, an advisor, that is working with them on final projects. So that's built in. There's an expectation of that one-on-one engagement. It is a question of scale, and we're probably not at scale, so we probably haven't reached that threshold necessarily, but it is part of the model and commitment to students as well. I'll leave that there. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the thing that I've picked up in both of these, in both of your inputs, is actually this balance between institutional organization, and something you said, Professor Uma, which is about the personal touch. It's about that connection, and that's come through both of your inputs in a really, really valuable way, thinking about how that personalization, that personal touch, that human to staff to student or student to student is happening, and it's come through in the questions and in the chat as well, and definitely that sense of students at the center of this. So it does fall to me to say an absolutely huge thank you to both of you. That has been an incredible hour, which has gone in a second in my mind. You know, we could have kept going with this conversation. So thank you very much both. I mean, we don't really have a proper way of clapping you, but we are clapping you, I can assure you, in theory. So thank you very much both.